You've probably had your blood pressure checked, I don't know, dozens of times, right? You know the drill. That familiar squeeze on the arm, they give you a couple of numbers, and that's it, you're on your way. But what if that single moment, that one little reading, is missing most of the story? Let's dig in and see what that bigger picture really looks like. I mean, really think about it. Your blood pressure isn't some number that's carved in stone. It's dynamic, it's changing all the time, with every single activity, every meal, even just your stress levels. So how can one little snapshot taken at one random moment possibly be enough to understand your real cardiovascular health? Well, the answer might just surprise you. We all know this scene. You're sitting on the exam table, you're maybe a little rushed, maybe a little anxious about being there in the first place, and then the cuff goes on. This gives us our starting point, right? The standard office blood pressure measurement. But this starting point can actually be pretty misleading. And here's where it gets really interesting. Check this out. Data from a key study shows that, on average, blood pressure readings taken in the office were about 11 points higher than the ones people took at home. 11 points. That's a huge difference. It tells us right away that just being in the clinic can actually change the result. What they measure there isn't necessarily what's happening in your day-to-day life. Okay, so before we go any further, let's do a super quick refresher, just so we're all on the same page. That top number, the systolic, that's the pressure when your heart is actively pushing blood out. And the bottom number, diastolic, that's the pressure when your heart rests between the beats. Simple enough, but these two numbers are the foundation for everything else we're going to talk about. So why do we even care about these numbers? Well, it's because when they are consistently at or above 140/90, that's what's officially called hypertension. It's kind of like the clinical line in the sand. But see, here's the problem. If the place where you take the measurement can change the numbers so much, how do you really know if you've actually crossed that line? So if that single snapshot we get at the doctor's office is incomplete, how do we get a better picture? Well, the answer is to start monitoring it over time, to actually see the patterns that show up throughout your entire day and night. We've basically got three main ways to look at this. First, you've got the good old office reading, which, as we've seen, is pretty infrequent. Then there's home monitoring, which is way better for seeing daily trends. But for the most complete picture, the gold standard, there's something called 24-hour ambulatory monitoring, or ABPM. It's this little device you wear that automatically checks your pressure every 15 to 30 minutes, giving you an unbelievable amount of data from your entire 24-hour cycle. So what's the real-world impact of doing this? It is massive. Get this, in one study, that 24-hour monitoring system found hypertension in 47.2% of patients who were completely missed by the regular office checkups. Let that sink in for a second. That's nearly half of all cases just hiding in plain sight, totally invisible to the standard method. You see, this 24-hour data paints a much, much richer picture. It's not just about getting more numbers, it's about uncovering these crucial patterns. For example, it can show if your blood pressure properly dips while you sleep, which is a key sign of a healthy cardiovascular system. It captures that morning surge when you first wake up. It literally reveals your body's own unique 24-hour rhythm, something a single snapshot could never, ever see. All right, so now that we have all this amazing, rich 24-hour data, we can start to look at things that go way beyond just the simple systolic and diastolic readings. These are really powerful clues about what's actually going on inside your arteries. First up is something called pulse pressure, and it's super simple to calculate. You just subtract the bottom number from the top number, but what it represents is actually profound. A higher pulse pressure can be a sign of stiffer, less flexible arteries, and that's a key predictor of cardiovascular risk. And hey, this isn't just a theory. The science really backs this up. Research has actually found that pulse pressure has the strongest link to a specific biomarker that indicates heart muscle injury. So this isn't just some abstract number. It's a really powerful predictor of your underlying cardiovascular health. Okay, the next big concept is blood pressure variability. Think of it like this. Is your blood pressure like a calm, smoothly flowing river, or is it a choppy, turbulent one with lots of peaks and valleys? Because even if the average level is perfectly normal, having high variability, those big swings up and down, is an independent risk factor all on its own. So, what does all of this really mean for you? Well, it means we need to shift our thinking. We need to move away from this idea of a simple pass/fail test at the doctor's office and towards building a comprehensive, personal profile of our cardiovascular health. This right here, this is probably the most important idea to take away from all this. Relying on a single office reading is like judging an entire movie based on one single random photograph. To understand the plot, the characters, the whole story, you have to watch the film. And that's exactly what 24-hour and home monitoring give you, the full video of your cardiovascular health. So what does this journey look like in the real world? Well, you start with an accurate office reading. That's your baseline. Then you use a home monitor to track the trends from day to day. And then, for the most complete story, you might consider 24-hour monitoring to get that full circadian view. By putting all of this data together, you and your doctor can finally build a true profile of your health. And why does this matter so much? Because a complete view is what allows for a truly personalized and effective health plan. It's about getting away from these one-size-fits-all numbers and moving towards a strategy that's tailored specifically to your body's unique rhythms and risks. So I'll leave you with this one thought. Your blood pressure is constantly telling a story about your health. The real question is, are you only catching a single word here and there, or are you ready to listen to the whole thing? Thanks for joining this explainer.